Splatoon 3 right now is just so fun to play, and if you are wondering why does the game just feels so much better than before in version 10 to version 11. It's like night and day difference. Well, there's a couple of reasons and I'm going to explain it in this video. If you were to go onto the version 11 patch notes, version 11 released 3 days ago, there's a specific note which is basically the big game changer here. Of course, it's the hitbox detection changes that they've done to the game. Right here it says expanded collision detection size for each main weapon's attack to make it easier to hit opponents with attacks. Also made it so that the shorter the weapon's shot flight distance is, the greater the increased collision detection size will be. So while this being a very short note within a whole patch, as you can see with a bunch of different notes, this specific thing is so much bigger than I think anybody really anticipated. Now they mentioned that they changed the hitbox of the player specifically for its squid form. So like as you can see here, the squid form in version 10 had a much bigger hitbox, but in version 11 it has a much smaller hitbox, but it seems that the standing inkling is actually the exact same actually. Because the main weapon hitbox of every single weapon in the game feels, well, it's basically slightly bigger, it makes shooting targets just feel consistent. There's like a large spike of just consistency throughout all weapons in the game. Like I don't know if you felt this feeling in version 10 where like you would be shooting at a target and sometimes like you feel like your crosshair is completely accurate on them, but for whatever reason you just see the bullet fly right past them and it's just like, okay, what is that all about? Maybe you guys have noticed this. Let me know in the comment section below if that's been the case, but I don't know. For myself, weapons like the Splatashot Pro, 96 Gal, Jet Squelcher, Dynamo, there are so many weapons in the game that I've just felt like, okay, why can't I just hit my shots? Like even though I'm being super accurate, why am I not hitting? But now I'm in version 11, I'm hitting. And it's all due to this change. There's so many weapons that just feel so much better. Even the L3 Nozzle Nose, I was playing it today, even though that did receive a buff, but I felt like it's even more buffed, mainly because I guess the size of the bullet is just a lot larger than it was once before, and of course just including velocity buff, it just makes the accuracy just a whole lot better. So it feels like that weapon is now just a completely, you know, just a fighting weapon. Like you can fight with that weapon, even though they reduced the pain a little bit, but like you can fight with it. So this change is honestly very cool. But I think there are probably some people just thinking like, okay, so I use like a roller or I use like a brella. Does this affect me as well? And how much? Like how much have they actually enlarged the bullets for each and every single weapon in the game? So we got a spreadsheet for you to show you basically all the different values of that. Shout out to Acing, one of my viewers who sent me this. They basically have made a document to compile basically how much every single weapon has changed in terms of coming from version 10 to version 11. Like every single weapon is here. And I'll leave this document in the description below because they are constantly updating it as well. So, but as you can see with the shooters in the game, there's a lot of weapons that have received like a different value for how much bigger the bullet has gone. So you can see with the sploosh, the bullet size has gone from 0.25 to 0.335, Splatashot Junior 0.2 to 0.3, like, and so on and so forth. Now, of course, I'm not gonna like say every single weapon in the game because there's so many weapons and there's so many different things about it. But I'm gonna try and be brief and just kind of tell you what are the most significant things. So, like, I mean, in brief, we can just do this one in bulk. Sploosh, Splatashot, Splashomatic, Aerospray, Splatashot 52 Gal, NZAP, they have really significant changes in terms of like the percentage of like how much bigger the bullet was once before into what it is now. So I mean, it's like almost like a plus 30% increase in terms of how much bigger its bullet size is. So I think Aerospray is actually kind of crazy. So that Aerospray actually would actually feel probably a whole lot more consistent after this patch than before. Splatashot and 52 Gal, you probably noticed it, even though these weapons were somewhat already consistent, but even more consistent. There are probably a lot less moments where like you're missing shots. You're probably going to be hitting your shots a lot more accurately, these as well. The Splatashot Pro and 96 Gal, I was also mentioning this, that the Splatashot Pro feels so much more consistent than it was once before. And I had some gripes about the 96 Gal when it first came out. But I mean, I kind of disregard that after playing it a little bit more, and it's just like very much more noticeable if you have like a certain playstyle that you will hit a lot more shots with 96 Gal, so that's cool. Jet Sculpture feels so consistent now. I've played it as well, played the Cobra Jet. It feels way more consistent now, even from long range, even though the increase isn't as big compared to these ones, but considering it's a longer range weapon, it is so much more consistent than what it was before. Like you really feel the connection in terms of the 4 shots. haven't played the Splash Shot Nova yet, but I mean, I feel like that would probably make it a whole lot more consistent, especially for how suppressive this weapon can be. I was also already saying the L3 Nozzle Nose feels a little bit better, especially with the buffs that it's gone. So it feels like it's really so much better at fighting as well, and it's like the same as the Splash Shot Nova. So I can imagine these two weapons feel so much better. I have tried the H3. I think the H3 is still a little bit held back by how slow it can be. Like even when putting run speed on it, it feels a little bit So I mean, I don't know. I think there needs to be some change with the H3 to really like bump it up a little bit more, but it does have to change. I have not tried Squeezer yet, but I could imagine that maybe it feels a little bit more consistent there, but you know, still has to be tried out. So if you're wondering about rollers and if they've got a change as well, they all have, of course. So this also, like, it doesn't just include shooters, it includes rollers as well. You might notice the horizontal swing being a little bit more consistent. So the change has been applied to it, but you probably won't notice it as much considering how it was before. And you know, it's not so bad. It might feel a little bit more consistent. I feel you might notice it a little bit more on the vertical swings for every single roller that's here. But considering the hitbox has been already pretty large already with every single roller already, it's like, you know, it's not going to really be that significant. This also includes blaster, and it also includes the blaster's AoE. Like the initial blast is actually being made a little bit bigger. Because of this, it also increases the AoE damage a little bit. So pretty much every single blaster has received a slight buff in this, but at the same time, when it comes to things when you're in swim form, this blasters also receive a nerf in that way. So it's like you get a buff if the person is standing, but you get a nerf if the person is swimming. So it's a weird mix where it works for blasters and also works against blasters as well. So every single blaster here, I mean, it does get it. I think the Luna probably benefits the most because it actually gets the original Luna blaster feeling from Splatoon 1. But I think you're gonna notice that blasters may feel a little bit more consistent, but in a way, I don't feel like this makes it bad, because at the same time, considering every other weapon in the game's main weapon power has been increased, it makes it easier to actually fight blasters, which is why I'm not like super like, oh my god, no, not the blasters, because beforehand, if you saw my Blaster Slander series, I was like, blasters have such an easier time and their main weapon power is so strong in comparison to other main weapons that are in the game. So I figured, if you're not going to nerf the blaster's main weapon power, you need to make every other main weapon's power to be a lot stronger to contend with blasters. And I feel that because the main weapon power now, with the bigger hitboxes, is bigger, now it actually allows to fight against blasters to be a little bit easier. So in turn, it makes it a whole lot more fairer to fight against a blaster, which I am really happy about. This is why this whole hit detection thing is so big, because for me, fighting blasters or just using a blaster, it just made, I mean, beforehand on version 10, it just made using blasters so easy. Even for S-Blast as well. S-Blast also received a nerf within the patch, and to be honest, technically the S-Blast didn't actually get nerfed. The S-Blast got nerfed because of its wider hitbox when it came to shooting close range things, or its close range AoE damage thing. But they basically nerfed that, but pretty much kept it the same or maybe slightly smaller. It was like by 11% or something. But I think it was done to compensate the hitbox detection range, because I mean, if they left the S-Blast the same, then they would have a much wider close range AoE option as well. It would just been ridiculous at that point, but they reduced it due to this change as well. And of course, time will tell to see if things are going to be much different or anything like that. But like I said, I feel like this hit detection thing is so much bigger than I think any of us really think, I guess, especially against fighting against blaster, because it makes it more fair to actually fight against blasters, because now our main weapons actually hit things. So it's actually great. Every single brush in the game has always had like a decent hitbox already, so it's just like, you know, you probably are not going to notice any of the changes. Maybe you might notice it a little bit more with Paintbrush, but at the same time, I felt like Paintbrush's like hit detection was already really good to begin with, so it's not going to really be much difference with how these things fight. So that's just my opinion. You're probably going to notice this a lot more with charges as well, just especially when you're fighting against people who are standing up in ink. They even specify this in the patch that if someone's in like swimming in the ink, it's going to be a little bit harder because the hitbox is going to be a lot smaller. But charges probably feel a whole lot better now than they once did before. E-liter out of all weapons in the game probably gets the least amount, even though it's slightly bigger, but you know, it's not as significant of every other weapon in the game. But it does affect charges, and I think sniping probably feels a slightly nicer than it once did before. So for the sloshers, I don't think you're going to notice this change too much in terms of how much bigger the sloshers have actually gotten. Maybe you might notice it a little bit more on the slosher machine, but to be very honest, I don't think it's going to be like too crazy, as the changes for it aren't as significant as the like other weapons in the game. But also the sloshers already had a pretty, I guess, big hitbox already, so maybe you might notice on the explosion like splash damage is slightly better, so you know, that might actually feel a little bit more consistent. The explosion, you might feed it. I mean, it is, I don't know, the explosion is kind of a slow weapon in this game, so I don't know. Maybe it might feel a little bit better. We'll have to see as time goes on, and if anyone's using a splasher a lot. For the Splatlings, I feel like you're going to notice the difference for every single Splatling that is here. The mini Splatling probably more so than others because it's the closest range one, but also just because every single Splatling has a pretty dang high fire rate, so it's really easy or really like useful to be able to suppress things. Ballpoint probably will feel really, really nice with this change as well. Very, very nice actually. Hydra Splatling and Heavy Splatling, I think they're definitely going to be benefiting too, because these, you know, all these are very, very suppressive weapons. So yeah, I think like every single Splatling, all your Splatlings are going to feel really good, different because of how much it's shooting just in general. So brellas are also a really interesting one. Like, I thought before that the Splat brella would actually really benefit from this, and I think whenever you're close range when using any of these brellas, it's just going to feel way more consistent. You're probably going to be hitting the consistent full amount for what your damage should be a whole lot more, or at least when you're shooting someone, you're probably going to be hitting over 50 damage a lot more easier now, because the pellet size are so much bigger than before. A lot of people have been telling me that using tented brella has been really, really nice as well. It's been so much more consistent, and I can imagine the same for the undercover. I kind of like had some gripe about the recycled brella too. I haven't tried it since the time. I feel like I need to go give it a go again, since now the bullet size is so much bigger. I feel like the thing with me with the recycled brella is just that shooting, there's just a lot of end lag after each shot, which kind of makes it really vulnerable in that way. So I think if that was changed, then maybe that could help the recycled brella a bit. But I can't deny that this definitely makes it way more consistent and actually hit like a whole lot more damage than just like under 40 or under 50 damage. So every single brella greatly benefit from this. And dualies as well. Now, dualies I think is a big one. A lot of people have already been saying that the splat dualies, the dapple dualies have also felt really, really good. I don't know if this might affect the Gluga dualies that much, to be very honest. Glugas is just like a very, very slow weapon. It doesn't really pain that much, but maybe it feels a little bit more consistent in a way. I'm not too sure. I was saying that the dualie squelcher probably feels really, really good probably right now, especially with this change, because it has the same sort of range as the Splash Up Pro, 96 cal and all that type of stuff. So now when like you're shooting, just standing shooting, I feel like that's the whole thing is just going to be a lot more consistent than before. Tetra Dualie has already got a buff, velocity buff. I think this thing is beaming already. It's a laser. And Dowser Dualies, or like, while the Dowser Dualies I think it already had an initial buff before, they improved its shot velocity, which made it more consistent. But now the bullet size being bigger, it's a whole lot more consistent. So heck yeah. Tri-Stringers, I don't think you're going to notice this so much. You probably might notice it a little bit more on Reflux more than anything. But I don't know how much you would really notice this, to be honest. I mean, because the differences aren't actually that big. I feel like maybe for close range, like if you're hitting the whole like triple thing, like you probably will notice that might be the biggest difference. But I don't know, if you are accurate with Tri-Stringer, it might feel a little bit more accurate. You might be getting more directs a whole lot more with the stringers now, so you know, it probably feels a little bit better. And for the 3 Splatana wipers that are here, you probably won't notice the swiping changes that much, I'm sure. You might notice this a whole lot more on its vertical more than its horizontal. I think especially on Stamper, you might want to notice it a little bit more, so the hitbox might be a little bit bigger. But the thing is, the hitbox was already pretty big, so like I don't think they've changed it that much to make it feel much better. But you know, I feel like it's probably going to feel overall more consistent. So yeah, the flicks probably feel more consistent. I don't think you're going to notice it that much on the decav, I'm going to be real, because the decav was just a really huge hitbox already. In a way, it's still been made more consistent. But yeah, that's the hitbox changes, guys. That's basically just to show you guys how much every single weapon has changed and why all your weapons probably feel a whole lot better than before. And it just makes Splatoon 3 just a whole lot more fun, because now there's some consistency. You know, this is personally what I've always wanted. I've always just wanted consistency in the game. I've always just wanted consistency, especially when using like longer range weapons that require accuracy. It just feels so like unmotivating when like you're shooting someone and it's just like the bullet just flies past, and even though like you're shooting like almost perfectly on them, because the hitbox of the weapons is just so small, it's just like, okay, it just flies past, and it just feels like, man, what was the point of me even shooting in the first place? So yeah, it's just a whole lot more consistency, and of course being able to dodge things, especially when you're in the ink. I think that's also just a brilliant change, because now there's more ways to dodge and more ways to counterplay things. So it's just like, you know, it just shakes up the game so much more, and I think this is just an amazing change because it's so good. You guys have to feel it for yourself. If you haven't played Splatoon 3 already, go ahead and play it. Go give it a try, because everything, like maybe a weapon that you haven't tried in a long time, and maybe it feels a lot better than before. So appreciate it, guys. This is the video. Share this around if you have friends that wanted to know the hitbox changes in its specifics, and of course the link of the document will be in the description below, but this is just me explaining it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think of the hitbox changes in the comment section below. And yeah, I've got to say, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I shall see you guys in a future one.